Hello everyone, welcome back to Patch Town. I need to apologise if there's any vocal discrepancies in this video because not that I'm ill, but I still have some kind of weird congestion, airway wise, bit of a blocked nose and a weird throat thing going on. Not sore throat, like I said, I'm not ill, I'm not in pain. There's a weird thing going on that's making it hard to, I don't know, not breathe. I don't know. Whatever. Basically, we've got another patch today. This is season 5, patch number 3. Quite a substantial patch, by the way. For some reason, it's not quite out on Steam yet, or at least it's not on the Steam page yet. So I'm having to refer to the Discord to show you the notes themselves. Nothing wrong with that though. But like I said, quite a substantial patch. As it says, this patch contains fixes to everything from drill elevator to overclocks and enemies. And remember to use please fix to report your bugs and vote for the issues you would like to have fixed. That is important. Please use please fix. It's a very useful tool for us and for Ghost Ship especially to help keep the game in working order. In fact, the February maintenance update was almost entirely composed of changes based on the most dominant requests, most popular requests on please fix for bug fixes. But yeah, this patch is quite interesting. It actually includes some pseudo weapon balancing. I'm hoping for some actual weapon balancing, but we'll get into that in a minute. But we'll see. A couple of things that are technically buffs. One very big buff that we'll start with, basically. But I see no reason to not jump right into the patch notes themselves now. Okay, so added new sounds for center engine on drill elevator. I always wonder where this kind of thing comes from. It's like a very specific sound that they just felt the need to change or add something more to. It's very strange. Fixed that sometimes clients could join and not get the UI element. The mysterious UI element. I don't even know exactly what they mean by that. There are sometimes these discrepancies in the patch notes, and I don't begrudge Ghost Ship for this at all. Although, if there was any possibility we could receive clarification for anything, that'd be awesome. There are some things I actually want to prod Anders about. You can see Anders on the right. I've been looking at his comments, which I often do. You can ignore that, Anders, don't worry. But basically, what I'm saying is there are some things that are a little bit floaty, and I will point those out as well. Hold on a second. There we go, fixed. I'll bring that back up again when it's relevant. Anyway, fixed issue where victory poses could be found in lost packs. They are only supposed to be found in crates. That is correct. Good change. Cluster bombs now spawn the correct amount of them. I guess that's a good thing. I hadn't heard any reports of them spawning in, an unexpected amount. Scorching Tide overclock. This is important. Damage is now back to normal after being cut in half after double damage bug fix. Now, okay, so they actually are acknowledging there's a double damage bug fix, but they are still saying that the original double damage is actually normal. So Scorching Tide, the new overclock for the flamethrower, seemingly very powerful and fun, was heavily nerfed in the previous patch by via a bug fix, because originally Scorching Tide dealt the damage that it was supposed to deal twice for seemingly no apparent reason. But that was actually what's making the overclock so strong. And that bug was actually fixed in the last patch, which basically halved the damage that you could deal with this overclock. So I guess Ghost Ship looked at that and decided that the original high damage was more appropriate, and I agree. I think people were very, happy to have this overclock, this very strong burst damage overclock for the flamethrower, and I think it deserves to have that be set in stone. So it's actually a very nice retraction of a change to make it make a bug essentially a normal part of something. Very cool. Fixed acid cloud left by Praetorian and oppressors dealing 4 times damage to players, which is really funny. I haven't seen anyone complaining about that, but that probably was quite bad. Fixed players being killed by cold damage freezing upon revival. That's weird that that's even happening. Cluster charges overclocks. This is actually a nerf. Reduced max ammo slightly and reduced cluster fragments by 2. Probably fine. Everything I've seen from cluster charges is that it's very good. This doesn't sound like a big nerf. It's still probably going to be quite strong. I'm not too worried. Although I would have liked to have experienced it in its original form. Being a console pleb, I can't. Fixed gear stats overlapping paint job selector when too many stats. Has that ever actually happened before? That's interesting. Fixed status effect related crash. Fixed issue with status effects that gave damage not always rewarding kills to players correctly. I don't know why, I'd actually been thinking about this recently. It's like, you set an enemy on fire, but what if it's kept on fire by another player? and then maybe they get the kill because they kept the enemy on fire, whereas it probably should have been you. I don't know. E.g., a projectile sets an enemy on fire and dies from it later. The projectile would be gone, and the kill instigator could not be resolved. So this is more so rewarding individuals, where, you know, sometimes status effect kills wouldn't reward you because it didn't realise that it died from your actions, basically. Sentries are now placeable again on the floodlights of the mine hidden point extraction. I don't know why you need to place them on the floodlights. I guess that's something you would want to do. I didn't realise that wasn't possible at any point. Might have been something that got bugged by Season 5. Fixed case where collecting a data cell would also count as collecting a rift crystal. I did see someone mention that they were progressing through the season bonus challenges quite quickly. Maybe this had something to do with it? I mean, it really doesn't make sense why a data cell would accidentally do that. I guess that has something to do with the changes related to reactivating seasons, potentially. The Rift Crystal will now try finding places to spawn rifts at increasing distance in case not enough spawn points are found. Okay. The Rift Crystal will now ignore the line of sight requirement if many attempts to find spots for rift spawning fails. Okay, good, just some general optimization of the Corestone event. You can now do weapon inspection on the Lead Storm with rotary overdrive overclock when heat is 0. That's an interesting thing. So what we mean is the gunsling animation where you press reload and it will do a inspection animation. For the minigun, it's where it basically spin the barrel. Not that it would activate rotary overdrive. I don't think it would activate the coolant thing necessarily. I'm not sure, but I assume just because it now the minigun had something tied to that, then it meant that it didn't understand when you pressed reload that it would be anything else as long as you're using that overclock. So I suppose it's a nice little quality of life change. Fixed dwarf not using the correct voice lines for sending boss code to mine morkite seeds. Okay. Fixed on-site refining missions were appearing to seldom. Fixed on-site refining missions because they were seldom appearing, and mostly appearing in salt pits and crystalline caverns. I had seen this mentioned, a distinct absence of on-site refining, and because of the way the game sort of works in terms of distributing missions, I'm pretty sure when they're in crystalline caverns or salt pits, they also have a remarkably high chance to not have any mutators. Which is a weird thing I think that is born out of the tutorial assignment. Could be wrong. I wouldn't mind some elaboration on that. But yeah, people would be noticing less on-site refinings, which is not a good thing. We like on-site refinings. It's a good mission type. Actually, very good. Big fan. Where was I? Fixed drill elevator freefall audio was playing while still cracking Geocrystal. Okay. Fixed issue with lost packs where if the pack contained a Bosco skin but you already had all of them, you would not get an appropriate alternate reward. In addition, you would also get the wrong message about having collected everything. That's actually a really weird thing where it's basically trying to give you something that you don't have, or that you already have. Which is not something that I thought those loopholes would ever try to do, but I guess it happens sometimes and they need to put safeguards in place so that it does actually give you something that you don't have. So, good change. Fixed curse light event not playing deposit particles and sound for clients. Okay, good. Scorching tide overclock, sticky flames are now being dropped by the projectiles again. I guess an indirect buff born out of a bug though. It's kind of interesting. Cluster charges overclock. Tweaked clip and ammo to make them fit nicely again, which I don't know exactly what that means. Probably not necessarily a buff or a nerf, but obviously it did get nerfed somewhat. Fix for crystal nucleation OC to be much more performant, which it's not. I don't think that's an English word. And fix some issues with the ice stance effect staying indefinitely. Okay, I'll mention this in a moment. Fix that oppressors could spawn a tutorial. RIP green bits. What's wrong with oppressors in the tutorial? Bulk detonators I understand, but oppressors, they're fine. Fix the sticky ice from the Cryocan and crystal nucleation overclock could receive status effects causing weird effects like it being affected by the Dreadnought's pheromone effect that spawns swarmers. Okay, Anders, if you're watching, I would really cool if we get some elaboration on crystal nucleation. And if you did, I would pin the comment immediately. So is it the case that crystal nucleation, the spikes are actually entities, I guess? Because what I saw from Lazy Maybe's video is that they were being very easily destroyed by enemies walking into them. And I don't know if that's behaviour that's been fixed by any of these tweaks. If it has, that'd be nice to know as well. It'd also be nice to know if that's how intended that is and if that might get changed as well, because it seems like quite a significant limitation to what would otherwise be a really strong overclock. So I'd definitely like to know a bit more about crystal nucleation if possible. Just a humble request. You are under no obligation, but it would be nice. And I would immediately pin a comment related to that if any dev were willing to respond. Okay, this is actually kind of cool. Fixed smart rifle, smart trigger overclock, overkilling with 1 extra bullet in some cases. So I'm still waiting. I think a lot of people are still waiting on a proper buff to smart trigger. And I think ammo is the way to go with that, a small ammo buff. But this is still important. This is something that Lazy maybe also pointed out, is that smart trigger, it's hard to recommend in general. It's kind of a bit weird and niche, but it was especially bad in the way that it could overkill sometimes, but especially with tiny enemies. Where it would often, because of how quick that it gains locks, that it would just fire out up to 4 bullets at once, I think, even when you were targeting only like one tiny enemy, which I think was probably very detrimental. And now it's probably actually quite good against tiny enemies, as the smart rifle normally is. Fixed issue where upgrades that change the effects on weapons, e.g. materials, impact effects and sounds, would not be applied. Okay, that's quite important because there's quite a lot of things that change visual effects for weapons. Fixed Order of the Deep first-person armor getting skin color assigned to glowy bits into the glowy material. Okay, deep scan mission resonance target proximity scan and now indicates height even if you are far away, unless you are far away enough to lose signal. So I think that means you would get a strong proximity scan from the telemetric rangefinder based on height, regardless is not a word, regardless of how close horizontally you are. Okay. Not necessarily a strong signal, but I guess what it's actually saying, I think, is that you wouldn't actually get a signal if you were close somewhat in vertical proximity. Maybe. Fixed visual effect for coil gun overclock, necrothermal catalyst not working on clients. I do wonder if this has been bugged for a while, because no one seems to notice when I use it. Fixed rival sniper turret missing muzzle flash. Fixed rival sniper turret making continuous impact sounds after being destroyed. What could have possibly happened to the rival sniper turret in this update? That's funny. Added voice lines for the Corlock Tyrant Weed. I've never noticed it not having voice lines. Is that true? Is it more so like killing voice lines? Because I swear if you point at it, they say things related to the Corlock. I don't know. We'll have to see. Either way, that is all of Season 5 patch number 3. Like I said, quite a nice, substantial patch. Why is the border still there? Lots of cool changes and bug fixes, especially a couple actually fairly interesting overclock tweaks, which always appreciated. Still waiting on, I think a lot of people are still waiting on some more considered weapon balancing in the vein of the new overclocks. More specifically, not necessarily other overclocks. I understand Mike's position on that, I think. The last few updates, especially Season 4 and the November maintenance, were quite weapon balance intensive, but the new overclocks, there are definitely some tweaks to be made. I'm thinking about burst fire, I'm thinking about smart trigger OS, I'm thinking a little bit about combustive goo mix, and possibly even conductive thermals. Some of these things that might entail some small tweaking and very possibly buffing. My position is yet to be fully formed, especially on conductive thermals, which I'm quite confident I can do a lot of, cool stuff with. But we'll just have to see, because we'll get Season 5 at latest. Console players, next Thursday at the latest. But then, of course, there will be much more for us to say, much more for us to do, and Season 5 will be available for everyone. But until such time, I hope you enjoyed, I hope you found this useful, and if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to stay on top of everything to do with Deep Rock and Roguecore. Then also click the bell, and also maybe consider becoming a member if you appreciate what we do here. You are under no obligation to do so. We don't deserve the money, but we would really appreciate it. Alright, see you next time, guys.